I sing the body atomic, gender ambiguified, gender non-elected, gender amplified, gender pre-selected, transgender and gender stuck. Not all of us get struck with the luck to be holy boy, singularly girl from the start. Blessedness is etched in us amid the layers of wretchedness in our existential hearts. Masculine and feminine prayers get answered in the sun-dusted shadows of our replaceable parts. In the beginning, we all began living when everything swelled in supernova womb. Stardust glittered, blistered, and littered the sky in overwhelming cosmic boom. Adam and Eve slunk from the garden, not understanding the weight of their shame. God hung redemption and a mirror for reflection on the gate with a note signed by name. I am. Believing in God is not the issue. Believing God matters is. For someone who lives in the din of modernity, somehow, for someone who lives with a heart that gives blood to a sanctified life, holy ground looks like all other ground, until we listen up and look around to hear God speaking Sophia. Sophia on the wind that spins from the culture we inhale daily, understanding the riddle is to embrace without failing that I am is in the middle. No male or femaling, neither one nor the other, encompassing father and mother. Your body a land for gender entwined, sex parts perfected to boggle the mind, if only we'd let us. From the second we lower our defenses, the Holy Spirit enters and centers our senses back on vocation as God-bearers. Divine action cares only for a willing heart to do its part and takes no account of any other faculties. God would never shackle these manifestations of spirit down, and when the shepherd of 99 found his one lost sheep, he enfolded her, brought her home, and never mended the fence. So run away to find your soul tending timber, light sequoias with matches, and burn spiritually limber. In the tension between Flora O'Keeffe and art, rendered dysphallic by permanent leaf, establish yourself in transgender grace, ongoing celebration of God's perfect face. That poem was actually written by someone very dear to me, Susan Pfeiffer, and I want to make sure I give her props for that. She gave me permission this morning to share that with you. I'm certainly not clever enough to put all that together, even if I am partly the inspiration. Today is the day we pause to remember and acknowledge our trans brothers and sisters who have been killed due to hatred. We also call that transphobia. Just another word for hatred. This day was founded in 1999 in response to the murder of Rita Hester, a transgender woman living just outside of Boston. She answered a knock at her door and was assaulted, and then stabbed more than 20 times. Her friends held a candlelight vigil in her honor, and eventually that vigil mushroomed into what we know today as the Day of Remembrance. Hatred of a group of people is a little easier when they're anonymous. It gets harder when you get to know someone, to like someone, to love someone. You may know someone who identifies as transgender, or maybe you know someone who crosses gender lines in dress or presentation. If you can't think of anyone today, I'll be that person for you. One of my favorite books in my library, and I've had it for quite a few years, is called The Tao of Pooh. Is anyone familiar with that? Excellent book. Love it. I've been rereading my library this past year, and as I prepared to talk today, I remembered an exchange between Pooh and Piglet, and I feel a little ridiculous saying that out loud, by the way. But Pooh is telling Piglet, they're describing sort of inner identity, the idea of it. And he says, how can you get very far if you don't know who you are? How can you do what you ought if you don't know what you've got? And if you don't know which to do, of all the things in front of you, then what you'll have when you're through is just a mess without a clue. Of all the things that can come true, if you know what and which and who. I spent quite a few years trying to figure those out, the what and which and who. And some days I think I know, and other days I'm pretty sure I don't. I think I have more clarity around the who, and that's what I want to share with you today. My story is not every trans story. It's a label that we share. It's an umbrella term, and I think everyone interprets it different, lives it differently. I was born Jessica to my parents in 1976. I'm the second oldest of 5 boys. My father's a Baptist preacher, as are 3 of my 4 brothers. When I say Baptist, I want to frame that for you a little bit. It already comes with its own connotations. On the sign of Faith Baptist Church that my dad is probably standing at the pulpit of right now, it says Independent Fundamental Baptist. It means they don't associate themselves with any other Baptist churches, and their fundamental meaning, we're as right as you can get. And I don't mean correct, I mean a direction. I've not identified as Baptist as a label, at least since I was 19. My last name in the Baptist community comes with something. It's sort of like Kennedy in politics. When I would say my last name, people would say, "Oh, which one are you?" I always felt described by my last name as a label, that I was supposed to behave in a certain way, or they had an expectation of what was to come next, and I often had nothing to say in response to that. When I was young, I violated gender roles and norms that we established in our house in just very natural ways. For many years, my father was also a suit salesman at JCPenney to help supplement the income in our house. And he would bring home little tidbits of how to tie a tie. I'm wearing a half Windsor today, by the way, in case you were wondering. He showed me how to chalk pants. He showed me the proper way to polish his wingtips shoes. And I would walk around in them. I would smell the kiwi wax. I would wear his fedora. Little did he know he was contributing to making sure I'm well-dressed today.